6 months later, Commander HFY stood in the Imperial Senate chambers, delivering his final report on what had become known as the Human War. The vast amphitheater was packed with representatives from across the galaxy, all eager to understand how the mighty Galactic Empire had been brought to its knees by a single species. The human conflict lasted exactly 73 days, HFY reported, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. In that time, we lost control of 37 star systems, 6 major fleet bases, and approximately 40% of our total military capacity. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembled delegates. The Empire had never suffered such devastating losses, even during the worst rebellions in their history. "How many casualties did we inflict on the humans?" asked Senator Vextor from the Centauri delegation. HFY's expression darkened. "According to our final battle reports, human military casualties totaled approximately 1,200 individuals across all theaters of operation." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. 1,200? Another senator demanded. "Against losses of millions of Imperial personnel?" "The numbers speak for themselves," HFY replied grimly. "Human forces demonstrated tactical superiority that exceeded our worst-case scenarios. They fought with precision, coordination, and ruthless efficiency that made our best military units look like untrained civilians." He activated the chamber's holographic display, showing footage from the final battle of the war. Human ships moved through space like deadly predators, their formations flowing around Imperial defenses as if they could predict every tactical decision before it was made. Their technology proved superior to ours in every category that mattered for warfare, HFY continued. Faster ships, more powerful weapons, better armor, and communication systems that allowed perfect coordination across vast distances. But more importantly, their strategic thinking was unlike anything we had encountered. "Explain," demanded the Supreme Chancellor. "Humans don't fight to win battles," HFY said. "They fight to end wars." Every engagement was designed to achieve maximum psychological impact, while minimizing their own losses. They wanted us to understand that resistance was futile, not just militarily but economically and politically. The display showed human forces systematically dismantling Imperial infrastructure. Rather than destroying everything, they captured key facilities intact, demonstrating their ability to take whatever they wanted whenever they chose. The war ended when they captured our primary naval shipyard at Kepler Station, HFY reported. "They didn't destroy it. They didn't hold it for ransom. They simply sent us a message saying they were keeping it as a gesture of goodwill, to show us what they could have done to our core worlds if they had chosen to." "What were their demands?" Senator Vextor asked. "Surprisingly reasonable," HFY admitted. "Complete withdrawal from all systems with human populations. Recognition of human territorial claims in the Outer Rim. Most importantly, a guarantee that no Empire vessel would approach Earth or its colonies without explicit permission. And in exchange, they agreed not to expand beyond their claimed territories for 50 years, and not to share their military technology with other species. They also offered to establish normal diplomatic and trade relations, provided we respected their sovereignty." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Empire, which had never negotiated with anyone from a position of weakness, had been forced to accept terms dictated by a species they had tried to enslave. "What is your assessment of future relations with humanity?" the Supreme Chancellor asked. HFY considered his words carefully. "Humans are not expansionist in the traditional sense. They don't seek to conquer for the sake of conquest, but they will never again allow any species to threaten their freedom or their people. They have made it clear that any attempt to repeat our mistakes will result in a much less restrained response." "Are you saying they could have been more aggressive?" "I'm saying they were holding back," HFY replied soberly. "Our intelligence estimates suggest that the forces they deployed represented less than 20% of their total military capacity. The war we fought was essentially a police action from their perspective." He activated another display, showing updated intelligence on human capabilities. "Our best analysts now believe that Earth alone could field a military force capable of conquering the entire galaxy. The fact that they haven't done so suggests a level of restraint that we should be grateful for." "What would you recommend for future policy regarding humanity?" the Chancellor asked. "Leave them alone," HFY said bluntly. Trade with them if they're willing, but never ever try to threaten them again. Humans are not just another spacefaring species. They are something entirely different. A civilization that has weaponized evolution itself. Their planet shaped them into perfect killers. Then they shaped themselves into perfect soldiers. Every aspect of their society is designed to produce individuals capable of violence beyond anything we can imagine. But more importantly, they're intelligent enough to control that violence and direct it precisely where they want it to go. The chamber remained silent as Zexhai delivered his final assessment. The Galactic Empire has ruled this region of space for 3,000 years because we were the most advanced civilization anyone had encountered. But humans have been preparing for war for millions of years. We never stood a chance. Are you saying we were outmatched from the beginning? I'm saying we were outmatched before their species even developed spaceflight, Zexhai replied. The moment we decided to treat humans as potential slaves rather than potential allies, we guaranteed our own defeat. Humans don't forgive threats to their freedom, and they never forget lessons learned in blood. After the session ended, Zexhai made his way to his private quarters. On his desk was a message that had arrived that morning through official diplomatic channels. It was from Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, now serving as Earth's military liaison to the Imperial Senate. The message was brief. Commander, thank you for your honest testimony to the Senate. Earth Command appreciates your willingness to help prevent future misunderstandings. As a gesture of good faith, we are returning your captured crew members unharmed. They have been treated well and will have some interesting stories to tell about human hospitality. We hope this marks the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our peoples. Attached to the message was a detailed technical manual for Imperial energy cell technology, with extensive notes on how humans had defeated it so easily. It was labeled, "Educational material, so this doesn't happen again." Zexhai set the message aside and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling the new borders of their territory, making sure that no one else made the same mistake the Empire had made. They had proven their point decisively and completely. The Galactic Empire had learned the most important lesson in the history of interstellar relations. Never, under any circumstances, try to cage a Deathworlder. Because Deathworlders don't just escape. They come back with friends, and they make sure you never forget the experience. Humans had introduced a new concept to galactic civilization, peaceful coexistence through superior firepower. It was a lesson that would be remembered for generations to come. And in the depths of space, Marcus Chen and his fellow Marines continued their eternal vigil, ready to remind anyone who forgot that some cages should never be opened, and some creatures should never be underestimated. The galaxy was a safer place now, safer for humans and safer for everyone else, as long as they remembered to leave the Deathworlders alone. After all, humans were polite people, but politeness only went so far when dealing with species that mistook kindness for weakness. The Galactic Empire had learned that lesson the hard way, and they would make sure everyone else learned it the easy way. Because the alternative was to face the full wrath of a species that had spent millions of years perfecting the art of war against a planet that was actively trying to kill them, and nobody wanted that. The rescue of Marcus was just the beginning. Within hours, every captured human throughout Imperial space began their own coordinated escape operations. Prison ships found their security systems mysteriously failing. Slave labor camps experienced equipment malfunctions that freed entire human populations. Guard stations reported that their human prisoners had simply vanished, leaving no trace of how they had escaped their cells. Commander Zexhai watched the reports flood in from across the Empire, each one more impossible than the last. Humans were appearing in places they shouldn't be able to reach, accessing systems they shouldn't understand, and demonstrating capabilities that defied everything the Empire knew about primitive species. "Sir," his communication officer reported with barely controlled panic, "we're receiving distress calls from 17 different sectors. Imperial installations are under attack by unknown forces. The attackers appear to be using advanced stealth technology and tactics we've never encountered before." "Show me," Zexhai commanded, though he already knew what he would see. The main display filled with tactical reports from across Imperial space. Human strike teams were hitting military bases, supply convoys, and communication relays with surgical precision. They weren't trying to hold territory or engage in prolonged battles. Instead, they were systematically dismantling the Empire's ability to coordinate and respond. "This is impossible," his second-in-command whispered. "How did they coordinate attacks across such a vast area?" "Our intelligence report said Earth barely had interstellar travel capability." Marcus, still calmly sitting at the weapons control station, answered the question. "Earth has had faster-than-light communication for over a century, Commander. We just made sure you never found out about it. Every human in Imperial space has been in constant contact with our military command. But our sensors would have detected such transmissions," the communication officer protested. "Would they?" Marcus activated a small device that had been hidden in his stolen armor. "This is a quantum entanglement communicator. It operates outside normal space-time, making it completely undetectable by conventional sensors. Every human you captured has been reporting your activities in real time." Zexai felt his world collapsing around him. "How long have you been planning this?" "The moment your first scout ship entered our solar system," Marcus replied. "We detected you immediately and began preparing for war. Did you really think we wouldn't notice alien vessels studying our planet? Humans are paranoid by nature, Commander. It's another survival trait." New reports continued streaming in. Imperial Command was trying desperately to coordinate a response, but their communication networks were under constant attack. Human infiltrators had planted viruses in their computer systems, causing databases to corrupt and tactical displays to show false information. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "Imperial Command is requesting immediate evacuation of all non-essential personnel from frontier sectors. They're declaring a state of emergency and recalling the fleet to core worlds." "A full retreat?" Zexai couldn't believe what he was hearing. "The Empire has never retreated from anything. The Empire has never fought humans before," Marcus observed. "Your species developed in a relatively peaceful galaxy, where disputes were settled through diplomacy and economic pressure. You conquered primitive civilizations that couldn't fight back effectively, but humans evolved in a galaxy of one where everything was trying to kill us." The display showed new tactical updates. Earth's main battle fleet was emerging from hyperspace at strategic points throughout Imperial territory. These weren't the small strike forces that had been conducting hit-and-run attacks. These were massive capital ships designed for full-scale warfare. "Incredible," Zexai breathed as he studied the specifications. "These ships are larger than our dreadnoughts and their weapon output. How is this possible? When your entire civilization is built around warfare, you tend to build very good weapons," Marcus explained. "Every human ship is designed to fight outnumbered and win. Every human crew trains for battle from childhood. Every human tactical doctrine assumes the enemy will be stronger and more numerous. But you're just one species from one planet," his second-in-command protested. "How can you challenge an empire that spans thousands of worlds?" Marcus stood and walked to the main tactical display, highlighting various human positions throughout Imperial space. "Because we don't fight fair, Commander. Fair fights are for species that have the luxury of survival. Humans fight to win, and we use every advantage we can find. Your empire is built on the assumption that conquered species will stay conquered, but humans never surrender. Every human you enslaved has been gathering intelligence and preparing for rescue. Every human ship you captured has been studied and reverse-engineered. Every human world you attacked has been plotting revenge." The tactical display updated again, showing the true scope of human operations. Secret bases hidden in asteroid fields, weapon caches disguised as mining operations, entire human populations that had been presumed extinct, but were actually hiding and building military infrastructure. "You thought Earth was our only world," Marcus continued. "But humans have been expanding throughout this galaxy for over 2 centuries. We just made sure you never found our colonies. Every uninhabited system you've surveyed, every empty planet you've catalogued, we've been there first, watching and preparing." Zexai stared at the display in horror. Red dots marked human positions throughout what the Empire had considered its secure territory. There were hundreds of them, possibly thousands. The Galactic Empire had been surrounded by human forces for decades without ever knowing it. "This is why you attacked now," he realized. "You were ready." "We've been ready for years," Marcus confirmed. "We were just waiting for you to make the first move. Thank you for capturing me, Commander. It gave us the perfect excuse to begin operations." New alerts flashed across the tactical display. Imperial bases were falling faster than Command could track them. Human forces were moving with a speed and efficiency that suggested years of preparation for this exact scenario. "Sir," the communication officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Imperial High Command. Priority Alpha. Put it through," Zexhai ordered. The holographic image of Supreme Admiral Kethvar appeared, his usually calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. "All Imperial vessels are to withdraw immediately to the core worlds. Do not engage human forces under any circumstances. This is a full strategic withdrawal." "Supreme Admiral," Zexhai began, "what are our orders regarding the human prisoner?" "There are no human prisoners anymore," Kethvar replied grimly. "They've all escaped or been rescued. Commander, I need you to understand something. We are not winning this war. We're not even fighting this war. We're being systematically destroyed by forces we never knew existed." "But sir, how is this possible? They're just one species. One species that has been preparing for this conflict for longer than we've known they existed," Kethvar interrupted. "Our intelligence reports were completely wrong. Earth isn't a primitive world with limited space capability. It's the center of a vast military empire that has been hiding its true strength for centuries." Marcus leaned forward with interest. "May I?" he asked politely, against his better judgment. Zexhai nodded. "Supreme Admiral," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly through the transmission. "My name is Staff Sergeant Marcus Chen, Earth Colonial Marines. I have a message from Earth High Command." Kethvar's face went pale. "You're the human prisoner." "I was never a prisoner," Marcus corrected. "I was an intelligence operative on a mission. That mission is now complete. Earth Command wishes to inform you that all Imperial operations in human space will cease immediately. Any Imperial vessels found in our territory after 72 hours will be destroyed without warning." "Your territory?" Kethvar sputtered. "This is Imperial space." "Was Imperial space," Marcus corrected. "As of today, you're trespassing. Earth claims sovereignty over all systems within 500 light-years of human colonies. That includes most of what you call the Outer Rim territories. You can't simply claim Imperial territory." "We're not claiming it," Marcus smiled coldly. "We're taking it. There's a difference. You're welcome to try to stop us, but I should warn you, humans are very good at taking things from people who try to stop them." The transmission ended abruptly as Kethvar cut the connection. Zexhai found himself alone with a human who had just casually declared war on the largest empire in galactic history. "Your empire made a fundamental mistake," Marcus said quietly. "You assumed that because humans appeared primitive, we actually were primitive. You confused choosing not to reveal our capabilities with not having capabilities to reveal. What happens now?" Zexhai asked. Marcus checked a display showing the approaching Earth fleet. "Now you get to go home and tell your leaders what you've learned. Consider yourself an educational opportunity, Commander. A living example of what happens when someone tries to cage a Deathworlder. And if my empire refuses to accept your territorial claims," Marcus's smile was absolutely terrifying, "then your empire will learn why humans are the only species in galactic history to successfully wage war against their own planet and win." The weapons control room erupted into chaos as Marcus launched his assault. The automated turrets tracked his movement but couldn't match his speed. He moved like liquid lightning, using the chamber's own defensive systems against each other. Energy beams meant for him struck the turret emplacements instead, creating explosions that filled the room with smoke and debris. Through the chaos, Marcus picked off the Imperial soldiers one by one. His enhanced reflexes let him dodge their return fire, while his stolen weapons found their marks with surgical precision. These weren't killing shots. Marcus needed information, and dead soldiers couldn't be interrogated. Within minutes, the weapons control room was his. "Impossible," Commander Zexhai whispered as he watched the security feeds. "How is one primitive creature defeating our best soldiers?" His second-in-command was studying the tactical displays with growing horror. "Sir, this isn't random violence. Look at the pattern of attacks. The computer core for intelligence gathering, the communication array for sending messages, the power systems to force us out of hyperspace. Now the weapons control. This creature is systematically crippling our ship." "It's not a creature," Zexhai realized with growing dread. "It's a soldier, a professional military operative." Marcus's voice came through the ship's communication system again, calm and controlled despite the battle he had just fought. "Commander, I believe we need to have a conversation." Report to the weapons control room. Come alone and I'll explain exactly what you've stumbled into. Sir, it's obviously a trap, his second-in-command warned. Everything about this situation has been a trap from the beginning, HFY replied. The question is who's been caught in it. Against the protests of his crew, HFY made his way to the weapons control room. He found Marcus sitting calmly at the main control console, surrounded by unconscious Imperial soldiers. The human had removed his helmet, revealing a face that was younger than HFY had expected, but marked with the kind of calm confidence that came from years of combat experience. Commander, Marcus said politely, as if they were meeting at a diplomatic function instead of after a violent battle. Thank you for coming. We have much to discuss. What are you? HFY asked, his voice tight with controlled fear. I'm a reconnaissance specialist with the Earth Colonial Marine Corps, Marcus replied. My mission was to gather intelligence on Imperial operations and assess the threat level to human colonies. You've been very helpful in that regard. Reconnaissance? HFY's mind reeled. You allowed yourself to be captured deliberately? Of course. Your ships are heavily shielded and nearly impossible to board from the outside, but you gladly brought me right into the heart of your vessel. Classic Trojan horse strategy. Humans have been using it for thousands of years. Marcus activated the main display screen, showing the data he had downloaded from the ship's computer core. Your empire has been capturing humans for months, planning to invade Earth and enslave our entire species. That was a mistake, Commander. A very serious mistake. You're just one soldier, HFY said, though his confidence was clearly shaken. What can one human do against the might of the Galactic Empire? I'm not just one human. Marcus smiled, and the expression was anything but friendly. I'm one of 50 reconnaissance specialists deployed throughout your territory. By now, my colleagues have gathered similar intelligence from Imperial vessels across multiple sectors. Your fleet movements, your base locations, your technological capabilities, we know everything. The color drained from HFY's face as the implications sank in. You've been planning this for months, years actually. Earth's government learned about the Galactic Empire long before you discovered us. We've been watching, learning, preparing. Did you really think a species that conquered its own death world would be defenseless against alien invasion? Marcus stood and walked to another console, his movements casual but ready for violence if needed. Let me tell you about Earth, Commander. Our planet has gravity that would crush most galactic species. Our atmosphere contains poison gas that would kill anyone not adapted to it. Our weather systems regularly produce storms that could level cities. Our geology is so unstable that the ground literally shakes and splits open. We know about death worlds, HFY protested weakly. No, you don't, Marcus continued relentlessly. Because Earth isn't just a death world. It's the death world, the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, and humans aren't just another species that survived there. We're the reason it's so dangerous. We're the apex predators that drove everything else to evolve such deadly defenses. He activated another display, showing Earth's military capabilities. Our civilization was forged in constant warfare, not just between nations but against our own planet. We've been fighting for survival every day for millions of years. We developed technology not to explore the stars but to kill more efficiently. Every human is a soldier, Commander. Our children learn combat tactics in school. Our elderly veterans still carry weapons. Our civilians train for warfare in their spare time. We have a saying, an armed society is a polite society. We're polite because everyone is dangerous. HFY stared at the tactical displays showing Earth's military installations, orbital defense platforms, and fleet positions. This is impossible. Our intelligence report said you were a primitive species with barely any space capability. We wanted you to think that. Marcus laughed. Humans excel at deception, Commander. It's another survival trait from our death world. We've been building our military in secret while publicly maintaining the appearance of a peaceful, primitive civilization. The mining ships you've been capturing, they're actually scout vessels gathering intelligence on your fleet movements. The colonists you've been enslaving? They're special forces operatives reporting on your base locations. Every human you've encountered has been a soldier on a mission. Marcus activated the weapons control systems, but instead of targeting the ship's own systems, he aimed them outward into space. Your empire made the fatal mistake of treating humans like any other species. But we're not. We're what happens when evolution produces the perfect killing machine and then gives it intelligence. What do you want? Zexhai asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Right now, I want you to watch, Marcus replied, pointing to the main display. Your distress signal has been detected by Earth forces. They're on their way. On the screen, new contacts appeared at the edge of sensor range. Ships that hadn't been there moments before were suddenly visible, their stealth systems deactivating as they closed on the Imperial vessel. Impossible, Zexhai breathed. Our sensors would have detected them. Human stealth technology, Marcus explained. We've been studying captured Imperial ships for months, learning your sensor frequencies and developing countermeasures. Your own technology helped us build better weapons to use against you. The approaching ships were unlike anything in the Imperial database. They were sleek, angular, and radiated a sense of barely contained violence. These weren't exploration vessels or trading ships. They were pure warships designed for one purpose, killing other ships. Earth's response fleet, Marcus announced. 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and 48 fighter squadrons, all equipped with technology specifically designed to counter Imperial defenses. One ship, Zexhai whispered. You're doing all this because we captured one human. You're not understanding the fundamental truth about humanity, Commander, Marcus said, his voice turning cold. Humans don't abandon their own. Every captured human represents an act of war against our entire species. And humans have been very, very good at war for a very long time. The first shots from the Earth fleet lit up the darkness of space. Imperial vessels that had been pursuing the disabled ship found themselves under attack by enemies they couldn't see until it was too late. The battle was swift, brutal, and completely one-sided. Your ships are burning, Commander, Marcus observed calmly. Your crews are dying. Your empire just learned what happens when you try to enslave a human. Zexhai watched in horror as his support fleet was systematically destroyed. The human warships moved with a coordination and efficiency that spoke of years of preparation for this exact scenario. This is just the beginning, Marcus continued. My reconnaissance data is being transmitted to Earth as we speak. Every Imperial base, every supply depot, every command center, we know where they all are, and we're coming for them. You can't fight the entire Galactic Empire, Zexhai protested desperately. Can't we? Marcus smiled that cold, predatory smile again. Commander, your empire rules through fear and superior technology. But humans invented fear, and we've spent our entire existence developing superior technology to kill things that were trying to kill us. Your empire is about to face something it has never encountered before. A species that actually enjoys fighting. Welcome to the human war, Commander. We hope you don't survive it. Commander Zexhai stared at the empty energy cell with growing unease. The containment field showed no signs of malfunction. The power readings were normal. The cell's integrity was perfect, yet somehow their prisoner had vanished without a trace. This is impossible. His second-in-command clicked nervously. The energy field should have disintegrated anything that tried to pass through it. How could a primitive creature escape from Imperial containment technology? Run a full diagnostic, Zexhai ordered. I want to know exactly how this happened. As his crew worked frantically to solve the mystery, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. First, the computer core reported an unauthorized access attempt. Then the bridge security system detected an intruder. Finally, the armory inventory showed that weapons and equipment were missing. Sir, the tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. We have a serious problem. Someone has been moving through the ship at will, accessing our most secure systems. Whoever this is, they're not acting like an escaped prisoner. They're operating like a trained infiltrator. Zexhai felt his blood temperature drop. The reports from Imperial Command suddenly made more sense. Other ships that had captured humans had reported similar incidents. Prisoners who shouldn't have been able to escape their cells. Security systems that failed in impossible ways. Crew members found unconscious with no memory of what had attacked them. All teams switched to maximum security protocols. He commanded, treat this as a hostile boarding action. The prisoner is to be considered extremely dangerous. But even as he gave the order, Zexhai knew they were already behind in this fight. Whatever the human really was, it had been planning this operation from the moment they captured it. Marcus moved through the ship's ventilation system like a predator stalking its prey. The Imperial armor he had stolen was a perfect fit after some adjustments, and its built-in systems gave him access to the ship's internal sensors. He could track every search team, monitor their communications, and stay always one step ahead of their efforts. His next target was the ship's power distribution center. If he could gain control of the vessel's energy systems, he could force them to drop out of hyperspace and send a distress signal that Earth's forces could track. The power center was located in the ship's most secure section, protected by automated defense systems and a full squad of elite guards. As Marcus approached through the ventilation shafts, he could hear them coordinating their search patterns. Team Alpha, secure the upper decks. Team Beta, maintain position at the power center. Team Gamma, continue sweeping the lower sections. Commander Zexhi's voice crackled through their communication devices. Marcus smiled as he positioned himself above the power center's main entrance. The guards below were well-trained and heavily armed, but they were designed to fight other civilized species that followed galactic warfare conventions. They had never faced a human who fought dirty. Marcus dropped a small device through a ventilation grate and it clattered to the floor near the guard's position. As they moved to investigate, he triggered the device's main function, an electromagnetic pulse generator that interfered with their weapon systems and communication equipment. In the confusion that followed, Marcus struck like lightning. He dropped through the ceiling panels directly into the middle of the guard formation, using his enhanced reflexes and combat training to take them down before they could react. The first guard went down to a nerve strike that paralyzed its weapon arm. The second received a precise blow to its primary breathing organ, causing it to collapse unconscious. The third managed to raise its disabled weapon before Marcus disarmed it, with a move that would have broken the bones of a human opponent. The remaining guards tried to surround him, but Marcus used their own tactics against them. He grabbed one guard and used it as a shield while striking at the others, moving too fast for them to get a clear shot. Within 30 seconds, all 6 elite Imperial soldiers were unconscious on the deck. Team Beta, report status, came Zexhi's voice through the comm system. Marcus picked up one of the disabled communication devices and spoke in perfect Galactic standard. Team Beta is no longer available to take your call. The silence that followed was delicious. Marcus quickly accessed the power distribution controls and began implementing his plan. He rerouted energy from non-essential systems to the ship's emergency beacon, then triggered a controlled overload that would force the vessel to drop out of hyperspace. The ship's automated safety systems would have no choice but to broadcast a distress signal that Earth's monitoring stations could detect. As the ship shuddered and began to slow, Marcus heard Zexhi's voice over the general communication system. All crew, this is your commander. We are dealing with a hostile entity that has infiltrated our vessel. This is not a drill. The creature we captured is extremely dangerous and must be stopped at all costs. Creature? Marcus said aloud, though no one could hear him. I'll show you what this creature can do. His next objective was the ship's weapon systems. If Earth forces were going to respond to the distress signal, Marcus wanted to make sure this Imperial vessel couldn't fight back effectively. He made his way toward the main weapons control center, using his stolen armor systems to monitor the crew's increasingly frantic search efforts. Along the way, he encountered another patrol of guards. This time they were ready for him, having switched to backup weapon systems that weren't affected by electromagnetic interference. But being ready and being capable were two different things. The guards opened fire the moment they saw him, filling the corridor with energy beams. Marcus's stolen armor absorbed most of the damage while he rolled behind cover, but he could feel the systems beginning to fail under the concentrated assault. Time for a different approach. Marcus activated the armor's built-in holographic projector and created multiple false images of himself, moving in different directions. The confused guards split their fire, trying to hit targets that weren't really there. While they were distracted, Marcus flanked them through a maintenance passage and struck from behind. The engagement was over in seconds, but this time, some of the guards managed to get off emergency signals before he could stop them. Now the entire crew knew his approximate location and capabilities. The prisoner has Imperial combat armor and weapons, one guard reported before Marcus silenced his communicator. It's moving toward the weapons control center. All teams converge on Section 7. Marcus could hear boots running through the corridors as every available crew member rushed to intercept him, but he had already reached his destination, the main weapons control room. The chamber was protected by the ship's most advanced security systems, including energy barriers, automated turrets, and a squad of the ship's best soldiers. As Marcus approached, he could see them taking defensive positions behind reinforced barriers. Surrender now, human. Commander Zexai's voice echoed through speakers in the room. "You are outnumbered and outgunned. We can end this peacefully if you submit to recapture." Marcus looked at the defensive positions, the automated weapons tracking his movement, and the dozen elite soldiers waiting to cut him down. Any reasonable person would surrender in the face of such overwhelming odds. But Marcus wasn't just any person. He was a human marine from a death world, trained to fight against impossible odds and win. "Commander," Marcus replied, his voice carrying clearly through the ship's communication system. "You said you wanted to know what makes a Deathworlder dangerous. You're about to find out." He activated every piece of Imperial technology he had stolen, pushed his enhanced physiology to its limits, and prepared to show the Galactic Empire why humanity had never been conquered. The aliens thought they had him trapped. They were about to learn their mistake. Marcus charged into the weapons control room like a force of nature, and the real battle began. 8 hours into the journey, the ship's routine began to work in Marcus's favor. The alien crew operated on predictable schedules, with guard rotations every 4 hours and system checks every 2. Their confidence in their technology made them careless about actual observation. During the third guard change, Marcus made his move. The gap in his energy cell had grown large enough for him to slip his hand through. It took him exactly 17 minutes to disassemble the cell's primary power coupling from the inside, using techniques he had learned in Earth's advanced warfare training. The energy field flickered for just 0.8 seconds, but that was enough. Marcus squeezed through the gap with fluid precision, his enhanced flexibility allowing him to compress his body in ways that would be impossible for most humans. The moment he was free, he reactivated the cell's power coupling, making it appear as if the containment field had never been compromised. To any monitoring system, the cell still showed a sleeping human prisoner inside. The holographic projector he had activated created a perfect illusion, complete with simulated breathing patterns and body heat signatures. The aliens would see exactly what they expected to see. Now the real work began. Marcus moved through the ship's corridors like a ghost. His footsteps made no sound on the metal deck plating, and his breathing was so controlled that it wouldn't register on most atmospheric sensors. Years of combat in hostile environments had taught him to become invisible when necessary. His first stop was the ship's computer core. The aliens used quantum-encrypted data systems, but Earth's intelligence services had been studying captured Imperial technology for months. Marcus carried a set of infiltration tools that could crack most galactic encryption in minutes. The computer core was protected by both physical and electronic security measures. Laser grids crisscrossed the access corridor, motion detectors monitored every surface, and the main terminal required biometric identification from authorized personnel. For most intruders, it would have been impossible to penetrate. For Marcus, it was merely challenging. He slipped past the laser grid by mapping its pattern and timing his movements to the microsecond intervals between sweeps. The motion detectors were fooled by a simple trick. Marcus moved at exactly the same speed as the ship's vibrations, making his presence appear to be part of the vessel's normal operation. The biometric scanner was more difficult, but not insurmountable. Marcus had observed the medical officer's hand structure during his examination. Using a flexible polymer membrane and some careful biochemistry, he created a temporary fake that would fool the scanner for exactly the time he needed. Once inside the computer core, Marcus began downloading everything he could access: ship specifications, crew records, Imperial fleet movements, trading station layouts, slave market operations, and most importantly, information about other captured humans. What he found made his blood run cold. The Galactic Empire had been capturing humans for months, taking them from mining operations, exploration vessels, and even some of the outer colonies. Hundreds of his fellow humans were being held at various locations throughout Imperial space. Some were being used as slave labor, others as experimental subjects, and a few were being held for special purposes that the records didn't specify. But the most disturbing information was about the Empire's expansion plans. They intended to invade Earth itself within the next year, enslaving the entire human population and strip mining the planet's resources. To them, humanity was just another primitive species to be conquered and exploited. Marcus copied everything to a quantum storage device no larger than a grain of sand, then carefully covered his tracks in the computer system. When he was finished, There would be no evidence that anyone had accessed the core at all. His next stop was the ship's communication array. If he could get a message back to Earth, the military could begin preparing for the Imperial invasion. But the communication system was located on the bridge, the most heavily guarded area of the ship. As Marcus made his way through the ship's upper levels, he encountered his first real obstacle, a patrol of 4 Imperial guards making their rounds. They were heavily armed and equipped with sensors that could detect most forms of stealth technology. But they had never encountered a human marine. Marcus positioned himself in an alcove near a ventilation grate, using the ship's background noise to mask his presence. When the guards passed by, he moved with lightning speed. His first target went down from a precise nerve strike that rendered the alien unconscious without triggering any alarms. The second guard fell to a chokehold that cut off blood flow to its brain. The third guard managed to turn around, but Marcus was already moving. A quick strike to the alien's primary nerve cluster dropped it instantly. The fourth guard raised its weapon, but Marcus deflected the energy beam with a piece of reflective metal he had taken from the computer core, sending the blast harmlessly into the wall. Before the guard could fire again, Marcus was on it. The alien hit the deck unconscious, never knowing what had attacked it. The entire engagement lasted less than 10 seconds. Marcus quickly dragged the unconscious guards into a storage compartment and sealed them inside. Their absence wouldn't be noticed for at least 2 hours, giving him plenty of time to complete his mission. On the bridge, he found exactly what he needed, a subspace communication array capable of reaching Earth. The bridge was empty except for one duty officer monitoring the ship's automated systems. The alien was so focused on its screens that it never saw Marcus approach. A gentle pressure point technique put the duty officer to sleep without any struggle. Marcus then accessed the communication array and began transmitting a compressed data burst toward Earth. The message contained everything he had learned about Imperial operations, the planned invasion, and the locations of captured humans. But as he finished the transmission, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Intruder alert," announced the ship's computer in the clicking alien language. "Security breach detected in detention level. All personnel to battle stations." Marcus smiled grimly. They had finally discovered that his cell was empty, but it was too late. His mission was complete. The information was on its way to Earth, and soon the Imperial invasion would face a very different reception than they expected. But Marcus wasn't finished yet. He had one more objective to complete. Moving swiftly through the ship, he made his way to the armory. If he was going to escape, he would need better equipment than his bare hands. The armory was protected by multiple security systems, but Marcus had studied the ship's blueprints during his computer infiltration. He found exactly what he was looking for: Imperial energy weapons, personal shields, and most importantly, a suit of combat armor designed for boarding actions. The armor was built for a different species, but Marcus's enhanced physiology allowed him to adapt it to his needs. As he equipped himself with Imperial technology, Marcus could hear the crew searching for him throughout the ship. They were systematic and thorough, but they were looking for a primitive escaped prisoner, not a trained Special Forces operative. "All search teams, report status," came Commander Zexai's voice over the ship's communication system. "Detention level clear, sir. No sign of the escaped prisoner. Engineering section clear. All systems normal. Cargo bay secure. No unauthorized personnel detected." Marcus listened with amusement as the search teams reported finding nothing. They were looking in all the obvious places, but he was already 3 steps ahead of them. While they searched the lower decks, he was preparing to take control of the ship's most critical systems. The human they thought was a helpless primitive was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. The Galactic Empire was about to learn why you never ever try to cage a Deathworlder. Because once a human marine decided you were the enemy, your only choice was to surrender or be destroyed. And Marcus had already decided that these aliens would never get the chance to harm another human. The real battle was just beginning. Marcus lay still for 3 hours, learning everything he could about his prison. The energy field hummed at a frequency of 847.3 Hz, with power fluctuations every 4.2 seconds. The cell measured exactly 12 feet by 12 feet by 12 feet. Temperature was maintained at 73.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Gravity was set to Earth standard, probably as a kindness to keep him healthy for sale. His captors had made their first mistake by trying to be humane. Through his enhanced hearing, Marcus could track the movement of at least 15 different aliens throughout the ship. Their footsteps had distinct patterns. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others seemed to have 4 or more limbs. The ship itself was large, probably a cruiser-class vessel based on the engine harmonics he could feel through the deck plating. A soft chime indicated someone was approaching his cell. Marcus kept his breathing steady and his muscles relaxed, maintaining the illusion of unconsciousness. Through his closed eyelids, he saw a tall, thin figure approaching with what looked like a medical scanner. "Vitals are stable," the alien medical officer reported in the clicking language Marcus had heard earlier. The translation device in his ear converted it to English automatically. "Brain activity suggests deep sleep. The specimen should remain unconscious for at least 6 more hours." "Excellent," came Commander Zexhi's voice from somewhere nearby. "I want a full biological analysis before we reach the station. The buyers will want detailed information about its capabilities and limitations." Marcus felt the tingle of scanner beams playing across his body. The devices were incredibly advanced, capable of mapping his internal structure down to the cellular level. But they were designed for known species in the Galactic database. They had no reference point for human biology. "Fascinating," the medical officer murmured. "This creature's physiology is unlike anything in our records. Its muscle fibers are incredibly dense, with a unique protein structure I've never seen before. Its skeletal system appears to be reinforced with some kind of metallic compound." "Natural armor?" Zexhi asked with interest. "Not exactly. It's more like the bones themselves are designed to withstand enormous stress. And these neural pathways. Commander, this creature's nervous system is remarkably complex. The brain shows signs of advanced conditioning and enhancement." Marcus almost smiled. Earth's military had indeed enhanced him, but not in ways these aliens would understand. His bones contained carbon nanotube reinforcements. His muscles had been genetically optimized for strength and endurance. His nervous system had been rewired to process information faster and resist various forms of attack. But the most important enhancement was something the scanners couldn't detect: his training. "Perhaps Deathworlds produce tougher specimens than we realized," Zexhi mused. "This could make the creature even more valuable. Continue your analysis." The medical officer moved closer, adjusting his scanners for a more detailed examination. This gave Marcus the opportunity he needed. Without opening his eyes or changing his breathing pattern, he began to flex specific muscle groups in a sequence he had memorized during training. The technique was called bioresonance manipulation. By contracting his muscles at precise frequencies, Marcus could create interference patterns that would confuse most scanning equipment. To the aliens' instruments, it would look like random biological noise. "That's strange," the medical officer said, tapping his scanner. "I'm getting some unusual readings. The creature's cellular activity seems to be fluctuating." "Is it waking up?" "No, brain activity is still consistent with deep sleep. This appears to be some kind of autonomous biological process. Perhaps an adaptation for surviving on its dangerous homeworld." Marcus continued the muscle contractions while mentally mapping the ship's layout based on what he could hear and feel. The engine room was 3 decks down and toward the rear of the ship. The bridge was 2 decks up and forward. The armory would likely be near the security station, 1 deck up from his current position. "Sir," came another voice, this one younger and more nervous. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Imperial Command." "What do they want?" Zexhi sounded annoyed at the interruption. "They're asking about our prisoner, sir. Apparently, there have been several incidents involving captured humans in other sectors. Command is requesting immediate containment protocols." Marcus felt a cold satisfaction. Earth's other reconnaissance teams were doing their job. Each captured Marine was causing problems for the Empire, making them nervous about taking more human prisoners. Soon, the aliens would realize that humans weren't just another primitive species to be enslaved. "What kind of incidents?" Zexhi demanded. "The reports are classified, sir, but the recommendations include enhanced security measures and continuous monitoring. They also suggest avoiding capture of humans unless absolutely necessary." "Ridiculous," Zexhi clicked dismissively. "Look at this creature. It's unconscious and helpless. What possible threat could it pose?" The medical officer finished his scans and stepped back. "I've completed the preliminary analysis. The specimen is definitely unique, but I see no immediate dangers. Its current unconscious state should last several more hours." "Good. Double the guard rotation anyway. I don't want any surprises before we reach the station." The aliens moved away, leaving Marcus alone in his energy prison. He waited until their footsteps faded completely before opening his eyes. The cell around him pulsed with deadly energy, designed to disintegrate anything that touched its walls. For most creatures, it would be an inescapable trap. But Marcus wasn't most creatures. He sat up slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements that might alert the monitoring systems. The cell had motion detectors, but they were calibrated for escape attempts, not small adjustments in position. As long as he moved naturally, as if he were simply shifting in his sleep, the alarms wouldn't trigger. From his sitting position, Marcus began to examine the energy field more carefully. The prison used a rotating phase pattern to prevent prisoners from finding weak spots in the containment system. But the rotation followed a mathematical sequence, and Marcus had been trained to recognize such patterns. After 20 minutes of observation, he had mapped the complete cycle. Every 8:47 seconds, there was a microscopic fluctuation in the lower right corner of the cell. It lasted for exactly 0.003 seconds and created a gap barely large enough for a molecule to pass through. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Marcus reached into his mouth and carefully extracted a small device that had been hidden in a specially designed tooth cavity. The device was smaller than a grain of rice and completely undetectable by most scanning equipment. Earth's engineers had spent years developing technology that could slip past alien sensors. He placed the device on the floor of his cell and activated it with a specific tongue movement. The tiny machine began emitting a signal so weak that it would register as background radiation to any monitoring system. But the signal was designed to interfere with the energy field's phase rotation, creating larger gaps in the containment pattern. Over the next 6 hours, the gaps would grow incrementally larger. By the time the ship reached the trading station, Marcus would be able to slip through the prison walls whenever he chose. But escape wasn't his primary objective. His mission was to gather intelligence on Imperial operations and, if possible, cause enough disruption to make the aliens think twice about enslaving humans. Escaping too early would limit his opportunities to learn about their technology and operations. So Marcus lay back down and closed his eyes, returning to his false unconsciousness. When the next guard check came, he appeared to be sleeping peacefully. The aliens congratulated themselves on capturing such a docile specimen. They had no idea that their prisoner was already free. They just didn't know it yet. As the ship continued through hyperspace toward the trading station, Marcus began planning his next moves. He had identified the key systems he needed to access, mapped the ship's security protocols, and established a timeline for his operations. The Galactic Empire was about to learn why Earth's military had never lost a war. They were about to discover what happened when you tried to cage a creature that had evolved to be the ultimate predator on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. They were about to face a human marine on a mission. The sleek silver ship drifted silently through the asteroid field, its sensors sweeping for valuable minerals. Commander HFY of the Galactic Empire watched the primitive vessel with amusement. The small craft looked like it was held together with metal patches and hope. Its design was crude, inefficient, and laughably outdated by galactic standards. Another backwater species trying to mine our territory. HFY clicked to his second-in-command through their telepathic link. His forearms moved gracefully across the control panel as he prepared the capture sequence. These primitives never learn. The being inside the mining ship was from a planet called Earth, located in an unremarkable spiral arm of the galaxy. According to Imperial records, Earth was a death world, a planet so dangerous that most civilized species wouldn't dare visit it. But that just made its inhabitants more interesting as potential slaves. Deathworlders were rare and they fetched high prices in the Empire's markets. "Deploy the ionic nets," HFY ordered. "Be careful not to damage the specimen too much. Deathworld species are valuable, even if this one looks particularly weak." The human ship was tiny compared to their Imperial cruiser. It had no weapons, no shields, and no chance of escape. The ionic nets wrapped around the craft like a spider's web, draining its power systems in seconds. The mining ship went dark and began drifting helplessly toward their cargo bay. HFY studied the readings from their scanners. The creature inside appeared to be bipedal, standing roughly 6 feet tall. It had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and what looked like a single head. Its skin was pale and soft-looking, without any natural armor or defensive spines. Most concerning of all, it seemed to have no telepathic abilities whatsoever. How did such a weak species survive on a death world? His second-in-command wondered aloud. Perhaps their planet isn't as dangerous as the records suggest, HFY replied. Or maybe they're just incredibly lucky. Either way, it doesn't matter now. The human ship was pulled into their cargo bay with practiced efficiency. HFY watched through the security feeds as his boarding party approached the craft. The soldiers wore full environmental suits and carried energy weapons, though they doubted they would need them. What threat could one primitive pose to a squad of trained Imperial troops? The human emerged from its ship with its hands raised in what appeared to be a gesture of surrender. It was even more pathetic looking than the scans had suggested. It wore simple clothing made from woven plant fibers and had no visible weapons or armor. Its face showed clear signs of fear, with water leaking from its optical organs. "Please," the human said in its crude vocal language. "I don't want any trouble. I was just mining asteroids in unclaimed space." The translation devices easily converted its words to Galactic standard. HFY found it amusing that the creature thought this was unclaimed space. The Galactic Empire owned everything within 1,000 light-years of their core worlds. Just because they hadn't bothered to put up warning beacons in every insignificant system didn't mean it was free for primitive species to exploit. "Sedate it and put it in containment," HFY ordered. "We'll process it when we return to the station." The boarding party leader nodded and raised his stun weapon. The energy beam struck the human in the center of its torso and it collapsed immediately. 2 soldiers grabbed its arms and began dragging it toward the holding cells. HFY felt a moment of disappointment. He had hoped for at least some resistance. Deathworlders were supposed to be tough, but this one had gone down just as easily as any other primitive. Perhaps the Empire's xenobiologists had overestimated Earth's dangers. The holding cell was a cube of pure energy, designed to contain the most dangerous prisoners in the galaxy. It could hold beings with superhuman strength, creatures that could phase through solid matter, and even entities that existed partially outside normal space-time. For one weak human, it was massive overkill. The human was stripped of its belongings and dressed in a simple prison uniform before being placed inside the cell. Medical scanners confirmed that it was unconscious but alive. Its vital signs were surprisingly stable for a creature that had just been stunned and imprisoned by aliens. "Sir," the medical officer reported, "the specimen appears to be in excellent physical condition. Its muscle density is actually quite impressive for such a small frame. Its bone structure is also remarkably robust." HFY nodded absently. These might be adaptations for surviving on a death world, but they wouldn't help the human now. The energy cell could contain creatures 100 times stronger than this primitive. "How long until we reach the station?" he asked. 16 standard hours, sir." "Good. Make sure our guest is comfortable. Healthy specimens bring better prices." HFY left the detention level and returned to his command center. The ship's engines hummed as they entered hyperspace, carrying them toward the Imperial trading station where the human would be sold. He began composing his report for the slave markets, describing the creature's physical characteristics and potential uses. The human appeared to be an ideal candidate for manual labor. It was bipedal like most civilized species, which meant it could operate standard equipment with minimal training. Its death-world origins suggested it might be more resilient than typical slaves, and its primitive nature meant it would be easy to control. What HFY didn't know was that he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. The creature sleeping peacefully in his holding cell wasn't just another primitive to be sold at market. It was something far more dangerous than anything the Galactic Empire had ever encountered. The human's name was Marcus Chen, and he was a veteran of Earth's colonial Marine Corps. He had spent years fighting in the outer colonies, facing enemies that would give Imperial soldiers nightmares. He had survived battles on worlds where the very air was poison, and the gravity could crush most aliens into paste. More importantly, Marcus had been expecting this capture. His mining ship was actually a reconnaissance vessel, sent to gather intelligence on Imperial shipping routes. Earth's military had been planning their response to the Empire's expansion for months. As the ship traveled through hyperspace toward the trading station, Marcus began to wake up. The stunner had affected him less than his captors realized. Years of combat had taught him to resist various forms of neural disruption. He kept his breathing steady and his eyes closed, letting his alien captors think he was still unconscious. Through his closed eyelids, he could see the faint glow of the energy cell around him. He had been captured exactly as planned. Now the real mission could begin.